Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at three other reading strategies other than the ones we've already looked at. We've already looked at questioning, and now we're going to move on to making connections, to understanding vocabulary, and to prepare understanding. We're going to use these strategies. I'm going to model these strategies in the story Hera and Heroes, Gods, and Monsters. You can follow along as I read, and I'm going to pause and tell you the strategies that I used as I was reading. Hera. Now these gods reigned for some 3,000 years. There were many of them, but 12 chief ones. Zeus married his sister Hera, a family habit. They were always quarreling. He angered her by his infidelities. She enraged him with her suspicions. She was the queen of intriguers and always found it easy to outwit Zeus, who was busy with many things. I stopped in this paragraph and I asked a question like we did last time, so I'm still using that strategy. Which are the 12 chief ones that they're talking about, or the author is talking about. And then I also defined a word, which is understanding vocabulary. If we don't understand the vocabulary, we can't understand the passage. And so I identified this word as a tough word. Maybe you don't know what it means. Infidelities, and I went to the dictionary and I defined it on my sticky note. And it's defined as actions or a state of being unfaithful to a spouse or partner. In addition, in that paragraph, I also wanted to understand vocabulary by looking at intriguers, a person who is interested or curious. Once she persuaded the gods into a plot against him. She drugged his drink. They surrounded him as he slept and bound him with rawhide thongs. He raged and roared and swore to destroy them. But they had stolen his thunderbolt, and he could not break the thongs. The first time that I read this, I reread this paragraph to make sure I understood. That is a use of repairing understanding, one of the strategies to repair understanding. I reread a lot when I'm reading. Sometimes I think about it. Sometimes it just happens naturally because I realize that I skipped over a sentence that might have been important. It's not necessary to mark it like I have with my sticky note, but you can if it's helpful to know that you reread that paragraph. But it is something that you need to do while you're reading. In addition to in this first paragraph of this page of Hera, I made a connection. I made a connection to the story that we read earlier or last week, Prometheus. This sounds like what Zeus did to Prometheus as a punishment. Zeus is tied down and can't get to his thunderbolt, just like he did to Prometheus when he was tied and had the vultures eating out his stomach for eternity until Hercules came along. But his faithful cousin, the hundred-handed Briareus, who had helped him against the Titans, was working as his gardener. He heard the quarreling under the palace window, looked in, and saw his master bound to the couch. He reached through with his 100 long arms and unbound the 100 knots. Zeus jumped from the couch and seized his thunderbolt. The terrified plotters fell to their knees, weeping and pleading. He seized Hera and hung her in the sky, binding her with golden chains, and the others did not dare to rescue her. Although her voice was like the wind sobbing, but her weeping kept Zeus awake. In the morning, he said he would free her if she swore never to rebel again. She promised, and Zeus promised to mend his ways too, but they kept watching each other. Zeus was king of the gods, lord of the sky. His sister Demeter was the earth goddess, lady of the growing things. His sister Hera, queen of the gods, was also his wife. His brother Poseidon was the god of the sea. His other brother Hades ruled a dark domain under the underworld, the land beyond death. The other gods in the pantheon were Zeus's children. 3 of them were also Hera's. They were Ares, the god of war, Hephaestus, the smith god, forger of weapons, and Eris, goddess of discord, who shrieks beside Ares in his battle chariot. The rest of Zeus' children were born out of wedlock. 3 of them entered the pantheon. I asked a couple questions in this paragraph. One of the questions is, what is the pantheon? And then, as you could tell, I reread a couple of these paragraphs or sections of these paragraphs to make sure that I understood what I was reading. Now that I'm also rereading, I might look up the word wedlock to make sure I understand what that means. I think it's correlated to this infidelities idea from the beginning of the chapter. That's also a connection that you can make. The first was Athene. The story of how she was born is told in the next chapter. And the last thing that I did as the closing of this chapter is make a connection. This is a personal connection, which you're also allowed to do while you read it. That's an important skill. I made a connection that says Athena is my favorite because of the story of her birth. I love that she's born out of the head of Zeus. And so I really connect with her at any time that I see her mentioned. We're going to practice this on our own for homework, but then we're going to talk about it in class and make sure that we have a lot of practice using these 3 other strategies. Good luck.